Oh, you're approaching me with another comic book challenge, Mr. Brevin? Very well then, I accept your challenge. Okay, so all jokes aside, welcome back everybody. I am the Rambling Collector, back again with another comic book ramble for all of you. And as you saw in the previous slides, I have been challenged by my friend and fellow YouTuber, Brevin, to do a Daredevil comic, more specifically, Daredevil, the Man Without Fear, by FrankMiller and Romita Jr. Now, to be honest with you, I have not had any prior experience with Daredevil other than the movie and the occasional glimpses of the TV show on Netflix. So I went into this one completely blind, but all in all, this was a very pleasant and surprising read. So, with that out of the way, let's get on with the review, shall we? So like I said before, I went into this comic book with absolutely no knowledge whatsoever of Daredevil, and to be quite honest, I didn't really know what to expect with this guy. Because the only experience I'd had with him previously was a live-action movie, which, by the way, rest in peace Michael Clark Duncan, you were amazing as Kingpin. But I feel like this one was actually a really good way to kind of introduce me to Daredevil, because this one actually covers his origin story, how he becomes Daredevil, and more importantly, how he chooses to become a superhero, and frankly, I actually liked how this is a good intro piece for me. Am I curious to check out more of Daredevil? Maybe, but I feel like just this standalone story is good enough for me. We'll have to see in the future if I decide to cover more of Daredevil's comics, but I gotta tell you guys, Matt Murdock's story, as I'm reading this, I'm seriously wondering, what the hell? How does a guy like this survive so much crap thrown at him? So, let's go into Matt Murdock's backstory, shall we? And I warn you guys now, it is not a very pretty picture. So I'm going to say this right now. Matt Murdock's story and how he becomes Daredevil is really not a happy story whatsoever. Like seriously, as a kid, after saving an old man from almost getting run over by a truck, that same truck which had radioactive waste in it, and it was all dumped on his eyes. So he got rushed into surgery as he felt these chemicals altering his body, and he was just in massive amounts of pain. And as a result, that chemical radiation ended up blinding him, but also augmenting his other senses, like his hearing, everything else, like his senses of touch. Just everything was cranked up to 11. Not only that, shortly after, when his father starts getting back into the boxing ring, his father gets shot and killed by a criminal boss that he was working for on the sidelines just to be able to support Matt and himself, because at that point in time, Matt's father had been dealing with fixed fights in his favor, until he had to deal with a fight where he had to be the one to go down, but he refused to do so. He refused to be a quitter in front of his own son. And unfortunately, that wound up costing him, as his criminal boss wound up beating him to death, with Matt finding his body shortly afterwards. And then, right after that, you have the Kingpin killing his former boss and taking over the city and really turning it into an absolute cesspool. So Matt, at the start, just has all the cards stacked up against him. I mean, he's turned blind, he'll never be able to see again, his father gets killed, and then some new criminal lord takes over and turns his home into an absolute slum. An absolute nest for crime. Which, I gotta say this right now, though, Kingpin's murder of his boss was brutal as hell. Like, I was not expecting to see Kingpin pop out like that, but that is the way you introduce a cold villain like this. I'm just saying that right now. But to continue with Matt's backstory. So not only is Matt turned blind, his father gets killed, and Kingpin takes over his city, almost, but his girlfriend in college, Elektra, who, might I add, is an absolute badass. She's described as poison by Matt's master, Stick, because apparently she's more for the dark side and he's more for the light. And judging by the fact of how she brutally executed these criminals all to silence the voices in her head, which I don't know anything about that, as I have not read any of Elektra's comics or seen more of Daredevil, but I am curious for more. Anyways, so we see her brutally execute these guys, and I'm just like, Matt, buddy, you might want to watch out for your safety there, just saying. But not only that, but Stick, his master, actually called him a disgrace, because after Matt's father was killed, he went on a killing streak, hunting down all the crooks who had killed his father, but as a result he let his anger blind him, and it wound up costing the death of an innocent, as shown here on the right. So in all honesty, I keep on reading this story and wondering just how much one person can be able to take before snapping. And the fact that he doesn't snap is admirable, as well as the fact that he chooses to use this and harnesses it to kind of decide, hey, it's time I clean up my city in one way or another, whether by the law or as a vigilante by night. In all honesty, I actually admire Matt's backstory, and this really served as a good way to introduce me to Daredevil. I really did like this story. But more than that, I actually really liked the art style of this one. So if any of you guys have seen my previous Batman Dark Knight Returns and Batman Year One review a while back, which was also another challenge given to me by Brevin, I did not have the highest opinion of Frank Miller's style when it came to Batman Dark Knight Returns. I did like Year One just because it was a bit more clean, but here, with Daredevil, it really works out well. Like, the lines are sharp and clear, not to mention the action is brutal as all hell, as you can see from the left here, when Daredevil is knocking people out just left and right, just probably caving in their skulls, and I'm just like, yikes, dude. And then right here in the center, he literally aims for this dude's kneecap. It looks like he snaps the damn bone out of the socket. Like, I think you can actually see bits of bone fragment coming out of the knee, like, ow. And then, of course, we have Elektra's brutal execution, as shown here on the right, where she just grabs a chain and proceeds to break somebody's wrist. And I'm just, honestly, it was this brutality and the way the art style was so sharp and clean, but also very well detailed, that kept me reading throughout. Like, I was absolutely hooked with Daredevil's story, and this played a huge part of it for me. The art style was a lot less rough, more clean, but also having that rougher look to it of like 90s comics. But in all honesty, I did really like the story. The art was good, the story was really gripping. But I honestly want to point this out on one final note before I wrap this video up. How many of you guys are fans of the Daredevil black suit over the red? Because honestly, I get it. His red suit is what makes him iconic, with the little devil horns and the double D on his chest and the fact that it's bright red. But in all honesty, guys, I feel like the black suit just works better for Daredevil. I really do. I mean, think about it. He's essentially moving in the shadows, focusing on his senses like a ninja. And I feel like the black suit really highlights that ninja aesthetic he might be going for. The Daredevil costume that he uses is just kind of, it really sticks out. It's bright, it's red. I mean, if you're going to be hunting down crooks in the dark, I'm pretty sure they're going to notice somebody who's in bright freaking red compared to someone who's in like a black stealth suit. So in all honesty, I do prefer the black suit for him, just because of that whole ninja aesthetic he's got going on there. And I know that it was probably the primary costume of the Netflix series. I know at least that much. I might need to check it out just to see more of Daredevil in action, but again, I'm not sure. But with all this being said, if you all are still here listening to this crazy man's ramblings, let's get on with the score now, shall we? So all in all, I would give Daredevil Man Without Fear a solid 10 out of 10, which hasn't happened in a while, if I'm going to be completely honest. Mostly just because this is a good introductory piece for me to really understand Daredevil, like his backstory and how he became the superhero he's well known for now. And in all honesty, this actually brings up my curiosity for Daredevil. I might check him out a bit more, or at least some more of his graphic novels, just to kind of see more of this character. But all in all, 10 out of 10 for great story, good characters, and more importantly, just a great art style altogether. This one is a really nice, very compact, standalone story to introduce people to Daredevil, so I would really recommend this one anytime. Now, for those of you who are curious, you can go and check out my Batman, Dark Knight Returns, and Batman Year One ramble for more on that. And if you did like this video, feel free to leave a like, comment, and or subscribe for more videos. And if you have any suggestions for me for review, please let me know also in the comment section down below. Now, Brevin, if you are watching this, I have just one question for you. You already know the challenge I've given you, so my only question is this: do you accept the challenge?